Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I am Link.
And I am Rhett. This week at the round table of dim lighting, you asked us anything and we're gonna answer anything.
With everything.
That we decided to answer.
We're gonna give you everything. In answer form.
But we have a couple of little things to update you about.
We're in announcement season.
Ear Biscuits is gonna continue through the summer. We also were gonna have a short 3-week break from GMM and then we come back with Good Mythical summer episodes.
We also haven't talked about if there's an Ear Biscuits break. It's like, we probably shouldn't be having all these logistic conversations on the show, but just suffice it to say, we're still figuring that out. But
no, but I actually was part of a conversation that you weren't part of.
Oh, really?
Where there was definite discussion about Ear Biscuits continuing through the summer. Well, not that there won't be a break of some kind. I don't want to talk us into anything. You know me, man.
Well, you know me, and you know what I'm thinking.
Let's make more business decisions right here on the internet in front of everyone.
You know what? Let's just let you make them. Hashtag Ear Biscuits. You make the decision for us.
That in itself is a business decision that you just made.
That was well, it was a joke.
Oh well, okay.
Okay, so let's get to some of your questions. Jen S asks, if you had to replace one room in your current house with the same type of room from your childhood home, could be bathroom, your bedroom, etc., and keep it as it was back then, same furniture, appliances, etc., which room would you replace and why? Nostalgia? Practicality? Hashtag Ear Biscuits.
Great question, Jen. This is such an intricate, original question. Kudos to you, and I don't ever say kudos. That might be the first time I've ever used that when I was not referring to the candy
bar.
Do they still make that?
I don't know.
What a good question. The funny thing is
kudos to kudos if they're still making kudos.
Yeah, it's such a specific, interesting question, but it does immediately cause me to think.
I've got an answer.
I have an answer for this.
What's your answer?
Well, we have a guest bedroom in my home, in my current home.
Yeah.
And it is.
I've seen it.
I
put my jacket on the bed in this bedroom because when I've come over there and there's like friends over there, and if friends have coats or jackets.
You throw your jacket on the bed?
That tends to be the bed where the jackets go.
Other people's jackets have been on the bed?
Yeah. I saw a whole pile of them on that bed. Never seen it being used for anything but that. Like for a guest?
I don't know how I should feel about that. I feel like I should have a place for people to hang their coats, not just throw them on a bed.
Yeah, you're messed up, man.
You're messed up or you've messed up.
I think this means that you personally are morally corrupt. No, I actually think it's a good thing because a guest room, unless you constantly have guests, which would be stupid, and you're not because you don't. Then it's a great utilization of that room when guests aren't there.
Well,
it's a coat holder.
My specific issue with the room is that my wife was dead set on having a guest room, and I totally get it, and she's very hospitable, much more hospitable than me.
Oh.
And we do have, the guest room is used quite often, obviously when relatives come into town, but sometimes if like we've got like a friend who's over and it's really late and they'll just be like, can I just stay in the guest bed? And they sleep in the guest bed. So that happens, and I really like that, and I understand the utility and also just the hospitality in that.
I thought you were gonna say that you didn't like it because then it meant you had to have guests.
No, I don't mind guests. And it also serves as the room that I sleep in when
things go sideways?
No, I haven't done when she's sick, when Jessie's sick.
Quarantine room.
So she's been sick. I'd say in the past 3 years that we've been in this house, I've slept down there like 4 or 5 nights when like there's like a real bad night, she's like coughing or something like that. Or if I'm really sick and I'm trying to get away from her.
Wow.
For some reason she gets the nice bed and I go down to the guest bed. Gotta think about that a little bit more. But my issue with it is that it's only used a very small, probably a single percentage amount of the time.
But the coats.
Even then, you're still in the 8-9% of total usage of this room, right?
Right.
And what I would like it to be is I would like it to be more like what we call the extra room in my childhood home. You remember that?
Oh,
me
yeah.
and you spent a lot of time in the extra room. The extra room was where me and you, like if you spent the night, we stayed in that room because it had the TV.
Well, here's my recollection of the room, see if I'm right. You go up the stairs, and instead of then wrapping around to go to either your room or your brother Cole's room, or then wrap around further to the bathroom, you hang a left at the top of the stairs, and there's this extra room that then it had brown carpet, it had a brown couch that would pull out into a bed. It had a brown television on a brown TV stand.
Lots of brown in your memory.
That it had a remote, but it was like one of the first television remotes that was made. It was a remote that had 2 buttons. It had four. It had a power button. It had channel up, channel down, and then it had volume up.
I could sketch you a picture of this remote.
And it was huge. It was like a matchbox.
It's amazing. Okay.
It's like it was a hide key.
First of all,
for like a huge freaking key.
Let me confirm.
And then there was an exercise bike.
Well, that was later, but let me confirm a few of the things, and then I'm gonna point out a few of the things that you got wrong. So interestingly, you had the entire layout of the house correct, except you didn't go left. When you got to the top of the stairs, you just went right across.
Yeah, you're straight.
It wasn't brown. It was mustard yellow carpet, which I guess could be construed to be brown.
Well, it was dirty. It was old.
It was very old.
Okay,
and
I see it though.
The couch was.
It was like that Chinese takeout mustard color.
Yeah. I mean, since brown, you could call it brown. The TV was not brown. The TV was black and silver because it was a Zenith.
Yep.
And the remote was also black and silver. And the remote was a brick. Was it the exact dimensions of an actual brick? And it had a power button that was. What
was hidden in this remote?
Well, I know you're like, why are you guys talking so much about this remote? But I have to tell you because
I remember this remote.
It had a power button.
Incorrectly, but it left an impression on me.
If you looked at the remote from the top, it was all metallic on one side and then all black on the other side. And the black part was where it had the buttons, and it had a power button which was beige and went all the way across. It was a big horizontal, like a space bar. And then it had a channel button, and then it had another horizontal button, which I think was the mute button.
You wanna have a really big power button so when your mom comes up those stairs to see what you're watching, you can scramble and turn it off.
Party in progress. Had to turn party in progress off. And then it had up and down volume. But it was so powerful. I'm sure that I was exposed to something that may manifest itself as cancer later in my life because it was such a powerful remote. I remember I used to take the thing and I would put it underneath the couch and then put pillows all around my hand to test it.
You create an obstacle course for the remote.
For the remote, and then I would hit channel up and it would change. It's like, you cannot do that with the modern infrared remotes.
It was like magic.
I don't know how it worked, and why don't they still do that?
Because just before that, there were television remotes. I didn't own one, but because we were too smart for this. It was a remote that was connected by a wire, a cord, like you have like a 12-foot cord to the television.
Well, because you might trip somebody, but at least you didn't have to get up.
Yeah, that was the first remote, was just a tethered
It's a tethered
box.
remote.
And then I think when they had to remove that tether with like whatever technology they used, the remotes got huge. And they slowly got smaller, just like phones.
But I would have that room in my house now because it had a television in it, which is the one thing that I've talked with Jesse about. Is like, we need a room that the kids can go and watch television in when they have their friends over, because our house is so open that there's 2 TVs in 2 different parts of the house, but their sound bleed. And you
want to be able to make that room like a playroom.
Yeah, but you could still have a pull-out couch.
Sure, yeah.
For guests, and
right.
we get into an argument about whether or not
it'd be versatile.
Pull-out couches
it's a conversion.
Good enough to sleep on for guests. But okay, that's what I would do.
You don't want them staying forever.
I'd put that room in that place. What would you do?
I would put my childhood bedroom in the place of either one of my boys' bedrooms, because
and they would have to play with your stuff.
My childhood bedroom, it did have a little television, but it didn't have as many screens.
Hold on, do you want me to tell you what I remember about your childhood bedroom before you tell me what was true about it?
Okay, yeah.
Now I'm not going all the way back to the Jimmy house. I'm going to the
from 4th grade
house
until college.
Because I honestly don't remember much about that first house.
Me neither, actually. Well, I do, but
you walked into the house.
Ironically, I recreated my bedroom when Mom was married to Jimmy. That bedroom from like kindergarten to 3rd grade, I basically recreated that in what you're about to describe, my 4th grade bedroom. It's like a lot of the same decor.
Okay.
Same furniture. I mean, we just moved everything and then I like reconfigured it.
You walked into the house through the carport. You took a left and then there was a door to a guest bathroom, and then you would walk through the guest bathroom to on the other side of the other door, then you come into your room. You could also come in the front door straight into the living room and then take an immediate right and go into your bedroom. So you had 2 entries to your bedroom, which I always thought was very cool because I didn't have that.
No, your exits.
I had one in and one out.
Yep.
And so let's say I'm walking out of the bathroom, and then there's your bed on the left, centered in the wall. You've got a bedside table with a Garfield phone. I remember that because there's a picture of it in the book of Mythicality. But then right at the foot of the bed, there is a dresser with a television on it.
Yeah.
And then the closet is on the right side, like a bifold doors closet. And I remember you had a wooden bed that had wooden balls on top of the post that I would play with and take off.
Yeah, you could
the bed.
You could twist them off.
Had an NC State bedspread?
No.
You didn't?
Nope.
You had an NC State pillow?
No, I had an NC State trash can.
Trash can?
With one of those basketball hoop things on the trash can that you'd throw your trash in order to like make it through the hoop.
And we had that in our office for a long time. Same trash can.
Yep, that's right. I don't know how that got moved there, but as a grown adult, we have my childhood trash can in my office.
But you would put this in your home now. It's a small bedroom.
Yeah, the one thing you forgot is I had my stepdad Jimmy made a bench that the seat hinged open and it was a toy box.
Oh, at the foot of the bed.
No, at the side of the bed, in between the 2 windows that were the front of the house.
Yeah.
And I had a freaking toy box in my bedroom until I went to college.
Yeah. I thought about that from time to time.
I had a bulletin board on my wall that had like a bunch of knickknacks and from like art that I made in middle school. And it kept accumulating all the way through high school. I mean, my room aged me down for many years.
It looked like a little boy's room until you became a man, and then it still looked like a little boy's room.
Right.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Fun fact.
At least you don't have that room anymore.
Go into Lando's room right now. You can screw off the top of the bedpost.
You do that from time to time for old time's sake?
No, but the reason why you can do it is because it is that bed.
It's the same bed.
It's my bed. I was like, Lando, you know what? This bed, I slept in this bed my entire life. Literally.
I did not know that you had that bed in.
Yeah, it's painted white because we put it in Lily's room when she was a baby.
Yep.
And Christy wanted me to paint it white, and now it's been white ever since, but it's in Lando's room. Mm-hmm. And it's that same one.
I have a white bed in my bedroom. It's like I sleep in a big princess bed.
Yeah, maybe you want to swap it out. But there's not a lot of technology in there. It's just a lot of nostalgia. So I'd like to go into one of my kids' bedrooms and like step back into my childhood and they wouldn't have as many screens to worry about.
Right, that one kid would be a little bit advantaged and disadvantaged all at the same time.
Yeah, you start having girlfriends, you have to talk to her on a Garfield phone. That's healthy, man.
Okay, we're gonna get to more of your questions in just a second, but first we're gonna take a short break to let you know that you can get the shirts that we're wearing and the mugs that we're drinking out of at a little old place called Mythical.store.
Mm-hmm. Get these Boil for Safety mugs while supplies last, because they are on their way out. If you want one, you better scoop it up. And you know what? I just put it to my lips right now. That's nostalgia.
Well, the funny thing about this is the Boil for Safety, the reason that we made these mugs in the first place is because oftentimes in the old school GMM, when we were eating something, it had just been boiled for safety because we didn't have anybody who knew how to make anything, and Chase would end up doing a lot of the cooking, and he would just boil things for safety so we wouldn't die. Thankfully, we've got some qualified people to make food for us at this point. So,
but they still boil some stuff for safety.
Every once in a while, some things are boiled for safety. But this kind of represents a moment in GMM history, and it's represented by this cup, this mug that will go away soon.
So mythical.store, also check out our Amazon store. What's that URL? I always forget.
Amazon.com/mythical?
That's it. Thank you for supporting Entertainment.
Okay, here's another question from Morgan. Not the Morgan who works for us.
Not Morgan Morgan?
No, this is Morgan R. I can say her name. She's not asking an embarrassing question. Morgan Rowland.
Okay.
Is there something you have done or said in publicly distributed entity, GMM, Ear Biscuits, an interview, etc., that you regret?
Ooh. Yes. Do we regret anything that we've put out there on the internet?
Well, yes.
I mean,
I can think of a very recent example.
Well, okay, I know what you're thinking. I was also thinking, maybe we talked about this. I think we talked about this in a live AMA somewhere. Maybe it was in the Q&A after a tour Mythicality stop, where someone asked us why they can't watch the Guacamole song anymore, and it's because we made it private because we just didn't think that it comes across as culturally insensitive. The way that we portrayed ourselves and the characters we played in the Guacamole song. So
yeah,
it was worth much more to be respectful than it was to keep an old video up there.
Yeah, a lot of people ask about that one. We've changed and the world has changed quite a bit. And looking back over 10 years of that video, it was like, oh, this is...
and I think that's a good thing.
This strikes differently than it did back then. But the most recent example that I'm thinking about is the international food taste test, the most recent dart food taste test on GMM, where Link brought in the professional dartist.
The actual origins of dishes that you thought were from one place, but they're actually from another. And one of those was?
Chicken Kiev, and we in our ignorance were just like, well, obviously this is from Russia, which is the capital of Ukraine. So it's funny, things like this, you know.
But you didn't, even what you said wasn't right. You said Russia was the capital of Ukraine.
I said Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine.
I didn't hear you right.
And Ukraine is very contentiously not Russia, right? That's what the whole controversy is about. So now this is one of those things that like, what's the best way to address this? Because what I will say is that, yes, now that I think about it, and when Stevie pointed it out in the video, in the moment, it was like, oh yeah, of course.
Like a minute later in the video, we're like, oh, that was a big mistake. And we left all that in the edit, which I'll come back to in a minute.
But what you see in the comments, and this is just a very common thing, is that the moment you make the ignorant, misinformed, insensitive comment that we made, or not comment, but statement that we made about Kiev being in Russia and being incorrect, that's when people who take this personally, who know about the situation and take it personally and are offended, that's when they begin to comment. A minute later, they've already hit send on their comment, and now they see that we actually say, oh crap, we're gonna piss people off when we said that. And a couple of people did say, oh, I'm sorry, I made this comment before I saw that you guys corrected yourself or whatever. But I would say I definitely regret that, but at the same time, it is not the first or the last time that we're gonna say something that is ignorant, insensitive, misinformed, can be construed and misunderstood, and will offend people, because it is the nature of the way that we make our show and we do our stuff.
Yeah, you know what, it's funny because I was actually thinking about the way that we make our show this morning. I don't know what got me to thinking about it, but I was appreciating the fact that, you know, very early on we decided that we weren't gonna make Good Mythical Morning a jump cut show. We weren't gonna make it have a lot of cuts. We were gonna move at speed of conversation, and the edit was gonna reflect that. The edit was gonna be very minimal or not at all. As production is increasing, we're doing more things physically, it requires us to like stop down and like bring stuff in and set stuff up that it's just plain boring. But in terms of conversation and what happens, I think I really am glad that we made that decision, because I think a hallmark of the show, I guess I don't think about it that often, I was just thinking about it this morning, was that some of the best parts of the show are those just honest moments of something happening. That there's not a lot of internet content out there where you see unexpected things happen as a cornerstone of any other property.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, if I am to talk about like a daily vlog or somebody who's just catching everything, and then they're making a calculated editorial decision to show you something that was spontaneous, but it's being packaged. You know, it's like,
right.
it's being, you know, you got a vlogger who, the classic, I'm vlogging and then something makes a noise and it distracts the person, so then they make a funny comment about it and then they get back to their thing. Well, and they include that in the jump cut to give you kind of a behind the scenes view on like, remember how I'm making this vlog, you know, things are happening or I'm messing up, and for comedic effect, I can add these things in, or just for a level of sincerity or whatever.
Right.
But I think our show thrives on the fact that those things, we mess up or something goes sideways, and then that's the thing that we walk away like, yes, something happened. We were surprised.
Like the things that surprise
we were
us.
surprised. We, you know,
now, but
I've said before that the things that my favorite shows are, and moments within shows, are the moments when we make each other laugh based on something that was just accidental or unexpected.
Right.
But it's not just that. It's not just the funny stuff. It's just that, okay, this is what we plan to do, and it's pretty live. You know, it has this feel that I'm proud of our show that it is, that I didn't know it was gonna work this way, but that it's kind of like, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah, because the show's,
as a viewer and as us, we're all seeing what's gonna happen.
Because the show is not scripted. You know, we talked before about, when we talked about kind of like the changes with GMM 22, people felt like things felt more scripted, even though we were basically doing things the way we had done them. We have parts of the show that are scripted, like the very beginning of the show, or when we're setting up an item that we're bringing in.
Or setting up like how a game works, just so we don't get bogged down.
Because we don't want to waste your time with a bunch of details that we're just figuring out off the top of our heads. But then once we set up a structure, and it's just basically anything goes at that point. And the funny thing is that this is an interesting middle ground, right? Because you've got live streamers, which we all know, the infamous examples of people getting in trouble for saying things on a live stream. Now, here's what I will say is that there are a number of things that we've said on Good Mythical Morning that we had to edit out because we were like,
and you know, yeah. Well, I won't cut you off. Go ahead.
The way that came across, again, this is none of this stuff would be like, oh, I can't believe they said that. But it's the kind of things that we know how the internet responds to things, and it was something was said in the moment, or somebody made a joke and they didn't realize, oh, that I didn't mean to make that joke, but we end up crossing the line and saying some things sometimes, and then the crew will laugh and we'll all know, okay, well that can't go in the edit. That's the nature of just doing something off the cuff. And that's maybe happened a handful of times even on an Ear Biscuit. But it's not nearly the level because we do have the option to edit things out. But when it comes to something like the Chicken Kiev screw up that we made, I think usually what happens is if we say something and we're like, I can see how that could be taken the wrong way. I didn't mean it for it to come across like that. So at the end of an episode, we'll say, hey Stevie, hey Darren, let's take that out. And sometimes they just make the call to do that on their own, or the editor makes the call to do that if they think that there's something that could be taken the wrong way. But that Chicken Kiev moment wasn't one of them, right? And I'm not saying it was some huge controversy and we've like lost, I mean, there was one person who said, you've lost a fan. They were, and listen, I don't understand, but I appreciate how sensitive of an issue the whole Ukraine thing is. And so it's like, for us to, in our American ignorance, you know,
right.
we have the privilege of being ignorant about so many other areas in the world, and it's a thing that would come across as arrogant and insensitive to me if I was not in the United States. So I completely understand it. You know, we're the only people in the world that only speak one language. You know, we can get by with just speaking English. So it's easy to hate. It's easy to hate Americans. And so I totally get that. And when we say something like that, it seems like we're just completely missing the boat. But we didn't really understand how sensitive it would be to some people. Some people would respond to it. So in retrospect, would have taken it out. But it's an example of one of those things that I regret saying that, and I also regret not just saying it, but regret that you ended up hearing it.
Do you regret talking about it right now?
Probably, yeah.
Coral Dalzell asks, what was it like when your first kids were born? Working in maternity has me see a wide variety of dad reactions to the birthing process, and I was wondering what yours were. We know each other's. Who should go first? Based on that knowledge.
I mean, yours is probably funnier than mine.
Oh, now I gotta be funny?
Well, I'm just saying that I think but you had a different, you didn't, your wife wasn't.
Just go ahead then. I can't make any guarantees as to how funny I'm gonna be, but.
Well, my Locke's birth was relatively uneventful.
14 years ago. It's hard to remember 14 years ago.
I just remember that, Jessie was dead set. We were not about the natural birth thing. She was dead set on all the drugs and all the injections that would make it an easy process. She made that decision without shame from all the women who told her that she needed to go into a river and just poop the baby out into the creek. She was like,
creek poop, baby. Creek poop.
So good for you ladies who make that decision, but that was not the decision that my wife and I made, and it was not my decision, it was her decision, and I was fully supportive of it. So she basically had some difficulty with the labor, but then she took the drugs and had the epidural injection, and I went to sleep on a couch, and then I remember—
You woke up and the baby was there?
No. I remember being awakened by a nurse who said, "Get ready, you're about to become a father."
Oh, crap.
And I stood up.
That's a rude awakening.
The doctor came in there, and I'd say within 20 minutes we had a baby. And relatively uneventful.
Did you pull or on anything or cut anything? I don't remember.
I don't think.
Did you like hold an ankle?
No. I stayed back.
Just
I stood at a safe distance, like when you see, like when you see like a scuffle at an Arby's. You know what I'm saying?
Dang, Arby's gonna have a scuffle.
And you're like,
that's curly fries will get you hot.
I don't know if I should get involved in this. I'm a big guy. I could probably get in there and restrain somebody.
How could you even say that? Are you accessing a memory?
I've watched a lot of internet videos too.
Oh.
I've seen many a scuffle at an Arby's.
You like Google Arby's scuffle? Everybody do the Arby's scuffle.
There's so many ways we could take that. arbyscuffle.com. It's a place where you either learn how to dance or you just see a bunch of videos of people fighting in an Arby's.
That would be Arby's shuffle though.
No. The Arby's scuffle is a dance that looks like you're fighting.
It's over
like, are those two people fighting? No, they're dancing. It's a two-person thing.
Because there's only so many like tight curly fries to go around. Then everybody else is left with just the C-shaped curly fries.
Yeah, you don't want that.
If I want C-shaped fries, I'm gonna order C fries.
But you can put.
But if I want curly fries, if I order curly fries, I expect them all to be curly.
But you can put you can put a C fry into your nose like a bull ring.
Well, that's fine and good, Rhett. But then the menu should say
bull fries,
like bull nose fries with a few curly pigtails thrown in.
I don't,
because that's what it is.
I think you're asking too much of Arby's.
I
stood at a safe distance, and no one consulted me. I'm not the best.
Do you think the baby should come out at this point, sir?
I'm not the best in birth and death situations.
No.
Like the beginning and the ending of life is not where you go to the Rhettster for comfort or like words of wisdom. You kind of just go to me for like safe distance, slightly concerned stares.
Yeah, you become like human wallpaper.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to people who are going through hard things. I'm actually learning, I am learning about how to connect more with this part of my humanity and
Your
not
pecs.
just this part of my, I'm really working on my pecs.
You should be a doula.
I was pointing to my heart, by the way, for those of you who listen to Ear Biscuits, bless you for that.
I think you should, well, all right, let's put a pin in the doula thing.
Yeah, so ultimately, it was pretty uneventful. I did not offer a lot. I don't think I looked engaged enough for anyone to ask me anything like, sir, do you want to come in and cut something?
Okay.
So I didn't say anything. I just remember they put Locke in like a little incubator situation, not an incubator, but the little, because he wasn't like-
tub. It's a tub.
It's like a warming thing, but it's not for preemies. It's just where all babies go.
Yeah, it's like it's like at Arby's where they put the fries under there.
Yeah, it's just like Arby's. The whole hospital is like Arby's.
Right.
And
come to think of it, because I visited.
Maybe it wasn't Arby's.
It was an Arby's.
Yeah, that explains a lot. That's why I never got a bill. But and I just kind of like, that's when I began to talk to him and sort of like came out of the shell and became a father.
Yeah.
Shepard, on the other hand, different story. I'll tell it another time.
In the past, you've added a part to that story which you left out, which was there was like multiple layers to the birth, and you decided to leave that part out.
That's Shepard's birth.
Oh,
you talking about the screaming and the?
Yeah, you just might as well tell it. I gotta hear it.
Well, I mean, I want to hear your story, but I'll tell the quick version. We thought we were gonna do exactly the same thing with Shepard, take the drugs, get the epidural. But what happened was when Jesse got to the doctor.
What had happened was
we got to the doctor and they like tested her, checked on the dilation situation. And they were like, oh, you might as well just go back home. But then Jesse was like, I don't think so. I think I'm having this baby right now. And then another doctor came in and said, you are having the baby right now, and we don't have time for any of the things that we planned.
First person must have been measuring in the wrong spot.
I think they were using a curly fry instead of a finger. But the
dilation of your, I don't know how many different things you can measure the dilation of, but
3 curls of a curly fry.
You gotta get that.
She's 3 curls!
Right.
So the doctor that was supposed to deliver the baby was currently in the shower at home. And so another doctor, it might have been a janitor, I don't know. It was just a dude with a coat on. He delivered the baby.
Stranger to you.
But she did it completely natural, going against all her best intentions. And she screamed so loudly that I was like embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? I'm also easily kind of embarrassed in situations like that, in like social situations. So on the scale.
And she's like a voice major. Was this like a operatic crack the glass kind of situation?
There was nothing beautiful about it at all. It was blood curdling. And it's the way I described it later was, it was as if she was about to be in a head-on collision she knew it and she was screaming that way, and then it kept happening over and over again, like a hellish situation. But again, I was more embarrassed than sympathetic.
Every contraction, it wasn't just the last moment.
No, that went on for, it's from the time she said, this baby is coming, to the doctor saying, this baby is coming, it was like 12 minutes or something, and Shepard was there. And that really just basically was indicative of what he was going to be like for the rest of his life.
People would like look at you and you were like, I do not know this woman.
Yeah, it's like, isn't this gonna make the hospital look bad? They got women like this screaming in here?
Close the windows.
Should be in an Arby's right now.
Okay. Well, I'm not great with blood flow.
Yeah.
But you talk about circulation and I get queasy. Mm-hmm. I knew I had to be seated for the birth of Lily and the subsequent 2. But they induced Christy, and 12 hours later, they give you this magic Pitocin stuff, and it makes you have a baby. That's how babies are made. It's called Pitocin. It didn't work. So at some point, they're like monitoring all these vitals of everybody involved, not me. I'm not really involved at this point. And they're, they had to make an executive decision for her to be rushed into a C-section. They cut you open like a watermelon and pull out another bit smaller watermelon.
Yep, that's how it's done.
And as anxious as I was about being party to a vaginal delivery, I've been waiting to use that terminology.
Yeah.
I was much more scared when we were walking into an emergency, an operating room, and I'm like getting scrubbed up.
Right.
And then I've told this story before, and it would help me remember it by listening back to that, but I don't know where I've told it. But it was, so I don't know if this was the first or not, but because once you have one C-section, Christy ended up having 3, one for every child.
It's very, very dangerous to have a
VBAC, they call it.
A VBAC after you've had
vaginal birth after C-section, yeah. VBAC.
Oh, that's the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an acronym for the whole situation.
Yeah, it is.
Because, my sister-in-law.
She did it.
Did that, and it was, I don't want to say she almost died, but maybe she almost died.
Well, and my layman's understanding of it is once you have a healed C-section scar, mm-hmm. and you're trying to have a normal birth, like all of that pressure and pushing you could just explode like a Arby's roast beef filled balloon.
Oh God.
And Lord knows we didn't want that to happen.
No.
But with the first one, it's like, oh man, we didn't talk too much about C-section. It's happening. She's in the operating room.
Beef and cheddar.
I'm out. Oh gosh, I'm outside, putting on my scrubs, and they forget about me.
Of course.
And they're like,
you're not important.
They're going about their business, and then and I'm getting worried. I'm like, oh crap, they're not coming out. I'm not in there. I'm gonna miss this thing, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. And then finally, a nurse is like, get in here.
Get in here, you moron.
The doctor knew that I was queasy about the whole thing. They put a curtain up, and I'm up by Christy's face, and then below the curtain, they're making like operational incisions and stuff, or one major one.
And it's a really, these days it's super small for what they do.
And I had such a rapport with the doctor, and he knew that I was queasy, but then I was hiding behind this curtain, like trying to be supportive to Christy, but I'm not fascinated about what's happening on the other down there.
Right.
I don't watch footage of any type of surgery. Like I'm not crazy or weird.
Well, I'm thankful for crazy and weird people because
I am too, man.
Those are the doctors.
Yeah. And by my definition. But then he was like, they were working on it for a while, and all of a sudden he starts yelling at me, and he's like, Link, stand up and watch the miracle of your baby being born. This is amazing. You stand up and you watch this happen.
Wow.
And again, we were very friendly, like we had gotten to know him very well. This was not a janitor like you had. Mm-hmm. And so he had earned the right to speak to me that way. And I respected the fact that he did that. And then I'm like slowly like standing up, and then like I see him freaking pull a human out of a big cut in my wife. But then your eyes are drawn to the human and not to the cut, and they take her over that way, and then it's like, and I was okay, but I was scared. It was a lot, man. I really went through a lot. But I did great.
You did great.
I was a champ. And I was also very anxious about, should I film this and when should I be filming? And
yeah.
Nobody tells you. If I had to do it again, I would have hired somebody to do all of that.
I stopped filming, I don't think
it didn't seem right.
Nobody told me to, but I stopped filming pretty early.
It didn't seem right to be filming that thing. The process, I mean.
Yeah, you got the baby. Why do you need footage?
I got some footage of Lily and like when they're, like right when she first starts crying and stuff like that.
That's cool.
I did pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself. I didn't faint. It's not like when I got cut by the Barbie or the knife opening the Barbie. That's another story I've told.
This is an interesting one. Kelly.
That took a while, but you know what? It was worth it.
Yeah, totally worth it. Kelly Jane Hartman, how do you put on your shoes? Do you go sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or sock, shoe, sock, shoe? Does anyone go sock, shoe, sock, shoe?
I did very recently.
What?
Yeah, I thought it's so weird that she asked this question because
why?
I go sock, sock, shoe, shoe normally, but I was thinking about this specific, because you know me, a man of procedure. I literally was thinking about this, just like, so kudos, Kelly. What had happened was, I had gotten these new shoes. You know, I got these boots here that I'm wearing. Well, not these, but they were like this. And I was really excited. I'm like breaking them in, I'm like trying them out. I got up the next morning after wearing these shoes home and breaking them in, and I was so excited when I was putting on my shoes to come into work that I put on one sock and then I couldn't wait to put on the shoe. I was literally so excited to put on the shoe that I put it on before I put on the other sock.
How did that make you feel?
Great. You know, you gotta have something to get you through the day, and that day, yesterday, I think it was getting my shoe on as soon as possible.
But you don't plan on repeating this?
No,
This is only a new shoe practice.
Yeah, only with new shoes would I do such a thing.
Because you know better than I do, but from an efficiency standpoint, sock, sock, shoe, shoe is definitely the most efficient.
I think they're equally as efficient.
No.
In terms of time, it should be the same.
I don't know, I don't think so. Because I think first of all, when you get into a mode and a rhythm of repeated motion, even just one repetition, you do the second one a little bit faster.
When it's back to back.
But also you've got focus on the socks, and you've got two socks in your hands. And if you're like me, you hold the other sock while you put the other one sock on.
Well, you know what? That's slick, man.
You hold that sock in like this part of your palm, and then as soon as you get through with the left sock, and I go left sock first, I move over to, I like unfold it almost in one motion.
Wow.
And then go to the right sock. It's just something I've learned over time. So there's no way that sock, shoe can be faster than that. But along those same lines, so I got these, not a sponsor, Clark's Desert Boots, because that's what Anthony Bourdain wears everywhere. And I'm like, he travels the world, he's cool. And I got them, and I'm like breaking them in, wearing them a lot. And a lot of people are like, if you're gonna be doing a lot of walking, it could be good to get insoles. And so I got like some Dr. Scholl's insoles to put on top of the insoles of the boots, because they're kind of thin.
That's always a good sign of a good pair of shoes, is when you gotta buy something else to go in them to make them workable.
But last night, I've been talking a lot about being naked lately, but I'll just continue. Last night I was naked in my bedroom.
Except the boots.
And,
Seriously?
And it was like midnight 30, and I was still up, and I am like, I gotta cut these insoles to fit the shoes, and I was anxious just like you, putting the shoe on before the sock. I gotta do this right now, and so I'm sitting there, I put on the shoes, I put on the socks, I cut the insoles, I put them on, and then I sit there, I'm in my boots, and then I just stand up, and I didn't know my wife was still awake. And I'm sitting there naked except for boots on in my bedroom. And I hear her say, I should take a picture of this. Because I'm just standing there naked in boots. I was like, and then I said, you know what? Maybe this is the moment. Maybe this is when I just post my nudes.
Nudes?
This is when I post my nudes.
Oh, and where would you post them?
Instagram, Rhett MC. I would also, but it would be taken down very quickly, so I would do it on Twitter, where it would not be taken down. So Rhett MC on Twitter, you wanna see the nudes. Me in boots and nothing else.
I don't mean to
socks.
burst.
I did have socks and insoles. Dr. Scholl's, also not a sponsor, but I'm gelling and they feel real good right now.
I don't mean to burst your bubble, but you, with that last story, and especially with the plug, you have brought this on yourself. Of course, when you were talking about these desert boots, which I've had, and I warned you about, I was like, I had those a couple of years back, and they're not that great. Ben was there for this conversation. Ben comes to work the next day and he's talking to me about how we're gonna approach shooting some of this stuff. You're not there. And he's like, hey, don't tell Rhett this, but you know how he's talking about how Anthony Bourdain like wears those boots everywhere and it's what he swears by and he wears them all the time and they're his travel boots. He's like, well, I was watching some Anthony Bourdain.
And he didn't have them
and
on.
He said the opening scene of the episode that I happened to watch started on a close-up of Anthony Bourdain's boots. And they were cowboy boots. And then it pans, it tilts up his body.
Okay.
And then he says, and then there's a voiceover from Anthony Bourdain and he says, for as far back as I can remember, I've worn these cowboy boots everywhere.
That's not true though.
Swear, that's what Ben told me. And he was like, don't tell Rhett because he was so excited about these boots.
Well, no. So
that's what he said.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying that's what he said.
Okay.
And you know what? Don't tell Ben that I told you because he told me not to tell you.
No. I found a picture of Anthony Bourdain with cowboy boots on when I did the research. I saw it in an article and then I look at all the pictures and I saw that he had these boots on lots of different places. And then separately, somebody who works here was like, oh, that's what Anthony Bourdain wears all the time. And I was like, yeah, that's why I got him. But I have seen other pictures. He does have cowboy boots. When he did a cowboyish thing somewhere on a ranch or whatever, he had cowboy boots. Anyway, I'm not saying, again, I could be wearing tennis shoes, but you know what the other thing I did?
Anthony Bourdain doesn't have to have worn those shoes for you to just read that he wears them so that then you'll have an excuse to buy them.
Do you know who I looked up before I looked up Anthony Bourdain? You know who I was trying to figure out what they wear?
Who's that host of Double Dare that then got his own like How It's Made show?
Mark Summers?
Yeah.
No, I don't care what kind of, he wears loafers.
Who's the guy who hosted the Family Feud after?
Ray Combs.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Was it him?
No.
Who's the guy who invented Arby's? Was it him?
Mr. Arby.
Was it him?
No.
Cowboy.
It is the guy, Jack and Finn? Harry's.
Oh yeah.
They're all over the place all the time. They're like the coolest, most adventurous, most, ecologically minded YouTubers on the face of the planet. And
good guys too. We met them in Nice
and
a few years ago.
Those guys have always been like way ahead of the curve, super smart and like kind of like you always get the feeling that they kind of like they look at the business the business of YouTube and the chasing the fame and stuff, and they just kind of just moved out of that lane and said they just wanted to go do what they wanted to do. One of them went to school and one of them travels the world, and they both travel the world. Anyway, they got great Instagrams, even better than Red MC. I gotta say, their Instagrams are even better than Red MC.
Of course, you're not gonna mention
Jack Harry's and Finn Harry's. I don't know what the specific handles are. But they're like the epitome of like travel cool. And so I was like,
they got accents too.
I wonder what boots they wear.
Oh.
And so I gotta say, I did a lot of like pinching and zooming on Jack and Finn's boots as they traveled the world to try to figure out what they wore. And the problem is that one of them wore the Chelsea boot quite a bit, which is the one without laces. And I just don't think that looks good on me. The one that had like the elastic on the side?
Yeah.
You wouldn't wear those.
No.
But they make
it elongates the foot.
But they make it look so cool.
I like something that shortens the foot.
Maybe it's just because I'm a big guy, I don't know, but they make it look cool. So then I was like,
they both wear them?
Who's an older, taller, slightly less cool, but still cool guy? Mm-hmm. Anthony Bourdain, and that's how I got to Anthony Bourdain, and that's how I got to the desert boots. You see my process. You see the things I do with my time.
I think we see your soul.
My psychosis?
Yeah, I didn't say psycho. Okay, yes.
No, you want to save these other questions for another time?
Absolutely. I think we, certainly, again, we will prompt more questions, and we will, there's a few of these we didn't get to that we'll sit on a little bit. We'll get back to in maybe next month. I think we'll do one of these about every month or so. Yeah,
continue. Yeah, so we'd love your feedback. Again, we won't necessarily take it, but we would love it. And No, we will take it. We will take it into consideration. But what we're doing right now with Ear Biscuits that we're playing around with is we're doing these AMAs on a regular basis. We're also working in a rabbit hole, and we're working in a couple of more focused questions, whether that be about, it's about some subject, travel, parenting, whatever. Let us know what you're thinking, which ones you're really enjoying, so we can continue to make Ear Biscuits that you like to put in your ears. Simple as that.
We'll speak at you again next week. Thanks for being here.
To hear this Ear Biscuit in its entirety and make sure you don't miss an episode, follow the links in the description to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else podcasts are available.
To watch more Ear Biscuits, click on the playlist on the right.
To watch more of our daily show, Good Mythical Morning, click the playlist on the left.
And don't forget to click the circular icon to subscribe.
Thanks for being your mythical best.